Miyamoto said in a recent interview that he would not be able to get a job at Nintendo today because of the fierce competition to work for the company. Brian, is it a problem that the greatest developer of all time wouldn't be able to get a job today?
Yes, that is clearly a problem. This is a problem with video games in general. It's so technical that it attracts technical people.
Yeah.
And creative minds get lost. Like, I can't think of that many creative people designing games. And here's another thing: is one of the greatest creative guys has a problem with the tech side, Tim Schafer.
Yeah.
You know, he can't be the guy making the game. He's got to be the guy supplying the story and characters.
Yeah, it's like he's the type of guy that the industry needs, but they're using him wrong.
Yeah.
Or he's using himself wrong.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I completely agree with that. You know, off the top of my head, I can think of two: Fumito Ueda and Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
Hideo Kojima is clearly a tech nerd as well,
Yeah.
but he also has that really crazy creative side to him, which the industry needs more of. Ueda might be the only developer that I know of, that I can think of, who's like, you're like, he's a cool guy. I mean, he's just an interesting guy that has amazing ideas and puts them to work.
He wasn't even really into programming. He studied painting.
But
when in
see
college.
what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
The industry needs guys like him, guys that are not into engineering, are not into programming, that studied art, that studied philosophy, stuff like that.
And the way they're going to attract them, I think, is indie game developers. I think, you know, stuff like Braid, Flower, the more that gets higher profile, more people see that, more people can see that you can use video games as a vehicle for creative purposes.
Right, but I think the problem with the indie games is that, you know, Jonathan Blow made a name for himself with Braid.
Yeah.
So let's say he gets hired by like Epic Games or something. They're not going to use him right. They're not going to use him right. And another problem is that this is an unbelievable quote by Miyamoto, because it got me thinking, like, they won't hire somebody who has an art degree. Yeah. They won't hire somebody
They'll
who's
hire the
not,
guy with the
yeah. So like Infinity Ward, right? They need to hire some people, you know, that are less tech crazy. You know, maybe we'll get a Saving Private Ryan instead of a Black Hawk Down. You know, maybe Triarch. Maybe we'll get a Letters from Iwo Jima instead of a Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
I'd rather play Hero than Romeo Must Die. I guess the point I'm trying to make here.
Maybe we'll get more movie comparisons.
Maybe we will. I probably have a couple more I can dig up. But what I want to say is that when, you know, video games are the summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
When are we going to get our Oscar movies?
When are we going to get Oscar movies?
Fumito Ueda is the only guy I know of who can make an Oscar-worthy movie. And no, Hillary Goldstein, GTA 4 was not Oscar-worthy.
No, it wasn't. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we discuss NeoGAF's greatest games
District
of
9.
all time.
I want District 9 and not AVP.
We discuss NeoGAF's greatest games of all time, and we dig into the emails. Stick around, be right back.
Be sure to subscribe to TWiGames.com via RSS, iTunes, YouTube, and Twitter. That's TWiGames.com.
NeoGAF, the popular video game forum, has voted on their greatest games of all time. 875 entries and 9,000 votes later, and we have their results. Brian, what'd you think of their list?
It should be explained that the way it works is members submitted their top 10 games, and the list we're looking at was under Big Cheese's scoring method.
Big Cheese.
And Ocarina of Time getting the top spot at number 1.
It's not a surprise. I mean, Ocarina of Time, to me, it's like the Braveheart of video games.
Yeah.
It's a safe bet. You know, it's very hard to think about the greatest game of all time, and it's hard to argue against Ocarina of Time.
Very hard to argue. A couple others on the list was Galaxy, Half-Life 2, Metal Gear Solid 1. I think this is a solid list.
First of all, this list, way better than Game Informer's list.
Way better.
Game Informer's list had some moments where I wanted to just tear the pages out and be like, what? But no, this is a pretty good list. There's a few surprising things in here, though. Well, first of all, I want to say, you know, I'm very happy that Shadow of the Colossus made the top 10.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Shadow of the Colossus. I think it deserves to be in there.
And I think that's expected from a forum filled with enthusiasts.
Yeah.
I think what's not expected, though, was that Galaxy got number 2. I would have thought a forum filled with enthusiasts would have had Yoshi's Island as the best platform.
That's true. You know, NeoGAF seems to love Yoshi's Island, so I'm surprised, actually, that didn't crack the top 10. FF7, I figured, you know, you'd have like a Chrono Trigger in there instead, but
Planescape Torment, Baldur's Gate 2.
Yeah, but I mean, no, this is a good list. I mean, it's hard to argue against a lot of this stuff. Half-Life 2, number 3, that's my personal favorite first-person shooter. But one thing I want to point out, though, looking at this list, Half-Life 1, number 24.
Yeah.
Now, although Half-Life 2 to me is my favorite FPS over Half-Life 1,
yeah.
I feel like Half-Life 1 gets the shaft. That's actually the game that revolutionized everything that Half-Life 2 gets credit for. You know, where you never see Gordon Freeman, cutscenes unfold like as you're still playing.
Health packs make sense.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think Half-Life 1 is the revolutionary game, but it makes sense that Half-Life 2 is further up on the list. Metal Gear getting a lot of love in here. My personal favorite, Metal Gear 3, number 15.
What do you think about Uncharted getting so high at number 14? Do you think that's knee-jerk reaction to the time, or do you think in 10 years it'll still be there?
I think it's a little both, honestly. I mean, this list was going on right as people were playing Uncharted 2, but for Uncharted 2 to be the highest game of the HD generation,
yeah.
I mean, that says a lot about that game. And I think looking back at it, Uncharted, we're going to remember Uncharted 2 as, oh my God, that game was like a stepping stone in making stories and, you know, making games more like movies. And I think it belongs there in the top 20.
Here's what wasn't surprising to me, is Resident Evil 4 being so high, because gamers love that game.
I'm a gamer, and I love Resident Evil 4. But looking at all these lists on all these sites and, you know, even here, I'm almost at the point where I think Resident Evil 4 is getting a little overrated. It's an amazing game. Uncharted, Gears of War, you know, obviously learned a lot from Resident Evil. But, I mean, we're talking about a camera angle here, right? I mean, is that enough to make this game top 10? It almost cracked the top 10. It was an awesome game, but there was a lot of problems with it, too. Like, the gameplay wasn't that fluid. You can't run and gun. The story kind of, at points, you were like, what? And then the game ended on a cliffhanger, and Resident Evil 5 didn't pick up where it left off. So I don't know.
And you see Blizzard going back to back to back in Diablo 2, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft.
That makes sense, though, because I feel like anybody who had one of those games in there had them all.
Did you see Korea's top 10 games of all time?
No, I didn't.
It was StarCraft,
Really?
all the way to 10.
That's not
serious.
That's not surprising at all. Oh, the StarCraft 2 beta, by the way, that's not out here yet, but they've actually been playing that for 10 years now in South Korea, and it's supposed to be amazing. But what do you think about, I don't know, what do you think about Halo Combat Evolved here, cracking the top 20?
It makes sense. I mean, revolutionized console shooters.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that on that thread it would be so high.
A lot of Mario here, a lot of Mario.
Yeah, can we just say the dominance of Nintendo in this list?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, though. I mean, you know, I was talking about Nintendo before, but when we're talking about the greatest games of all time, yeah I'd expect dominance of Nintendo. They made the greatest games of all time.